Is there anyone who actually likes jack stands? I don't think so. They're dangerous, they're a pain in the ass to work with, but a lot of people think that they can't afford a lift because they're expensive or their garage height won't accommodate it. And in the past that's been the case, but now there's something called a Quickjack, which will allow you to lift up your car with a hydraulic system in a garage with a low ceiling like mine, and also be portable. Now, I've had a Quickjack 5000 for about 3 years. It's kind of one of the original models, and I used it constantly, but I got a couple of different cars, and I wanted the SLX model because it's a little bit more versatile. So I just got it, and I'll show you how to put it together and then how it works. So here's what gets dropped off by UPS in my case. We have two frames, the right frame and the left frame, and then this box over here contains the pump, the hydraulic pump, which gets things up in the air. So this is the BL5000 SLX. They come in different lengths and sizes. This is pretty universal, and it works for all the cars that I have. 5,000 pound lifting capacity. Now this photo over here, I'm not sure if this photo does a great job of selling the Quickjack. But I guess it does show portability. And here are the lifting units, one in each of the boxes. There is a right and a left side to these. You always want to make sure that the safety bar is on the outside. In the smaller box here, we've got the hoses and the fittings, and also the accessories, rubber blocks that sit under the lift points of the car. Neatly packaged. And here are the fittings. You've got the main ones that go on the hoses, and then these go onto the hydraulic cylinders. These are spare wheels, and these are feet for the power unit. They also include some pipe sealing tape, but I'm going to use some of my own because I think that's going to be a better option for me. Now, the first thing you notice when the Quickjack gets dropped off is that those boxes are super heavy, and I think I figured out why. It's this manual. It's super thick. Now, of course, it is in a couple of different languages, but still. We're going to follow this manual to a T because when you're putting a 5,000 pound object above your head, I think it's pretty important to follow instructions. The instructions say to start with this fitting, which is what connects the short hydraulic hose to the piston. And there are caps on it to keep it nice and pristine before you install it. There's an O-ring on the side that goes into the piston. You don't need to put any sealing tape on that. And then on the male side, you'll ultimately be putting sealing tape before you attach it to the short hose. Okay, this is the fitting where this is gonna go. It comes with a cap. And so the first thing we're gonna have to do is take that cap off. And I'm doing that with a 1/4 inch hex wrench. They say that you can lift this up and put a rubber block underneath to give yourself some more working space. So I'll just break the seal on this. There it is. And now just unscrew the cap. Keep that for later in case you ever want to store it. And then once again, this has got an O-ring on it, so you don't need any sealing tape. And just get that started. So what we're going to do is tighten this up. I'm going to use a 9/16 wrench to hold that and 11/16 to start tightening. I want this to be accessible from the top, so facing up. And I'm just using this wrench to hold this steady while I make sure this is nice and tight. And put the other one in. Okay. Here's one of the short hoses that connects to the frame. And the male end here, we're going to bare and put some thread sealing tape on it. And you always want to go in the direction that you are going to ultimately be screwing things on. So 3, that's 2, and then 3. And obviously make sure there's nothing blocking that hole. Then we'll take one of these male connectors and put those in. It's nice that they have a little dust cap that's built in. We'll do the same thing with double wrenching to make sure this is nice and tight. 11/16 for the smaller nut and a 7/8 on the bigger side. And we'll just tighten this up. And then this will ultimately get through here, but I'm gonna put it in through here now. Now we're just gonna take the female side of the short hose here and put it onto the hydraulic piston. There's not a lot of space in here, so we'll just have to tighten that up with a couple of turns. Here's the long hose, and it's secured, and I think it's a good idea to leave it secured, but maybe just pull these out a little bit so we don't have hoses all over the place. Just get enough length so that we can work with them. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put female connector like this onto each end of the hose with some sealing tape, of course. This is the power unit here that holds the hydraulic fluid, which lifts the frames. And this is where the fittings are gonna go. So there are these little protective coverings, these plugs, because when they test this at the factory, they have to put fluid in it. And you can see there's still a little remnant of fluid. What I'm gonna do is put the bottom one in first so I have access to it. And we'll get things nice and tight. All right, now that they're both tight, I'll put the dust caps back on. Really important to keep these nice and clean. You do not want junk in your hydraulic fluid. So now we're going to take the short end with the connector and the long hose with the connector and put them together. And they lock in really nice. You want to make sure that they're definitely locked in. Do that on both sides. And now we'll connect the other end of the long hose into the power unit. So that'll go in here like this. See, when it's not attached, that little detente is right there. When we put the thing in and it clicks tight, we rotate it and it's in there good and snug. Next thing we have to do is pressurize the air canister here, and it's just got a regular Schrader valve in it. Now notice that the frame is completely lowered. I removed the block that I had in there before holding it up when I was putting the other plumbing in. You need the frame to be completely down before you pressurize the cylinder. We'll take the air out, whatever's in there, and pump it up to between 40 and 50 psi. And now we'll just take the cover off of here and we'll fill this with multi-purpose automatic transmission fluid. And this is the model cap that has the breather built in. Some of the other models have a little screw on top that you have to loosen up. Now we've got to bleed the air out of here so that the hydraulics will work. You see, there it goes, and a little fluid's coming out. So we'll tighten that back up. Do that on the other side, or the fluid. Oh, there's the air. And now we'll raise the units for the first time, but we won't take them all the way to the top, only to the first stop, and then we're gonna bleed the cylinders again. With the Quickjack standing on its side and the bleeder valve pointing up, I'll just loosen this and bleed a little bit more. You can hear the air coming out. Still coming. And we'll close it up. And here's a close-up of how the safety mechanisms work. You'll see there's a little bar there in the back that the safety bar comes up and over on, like that. And then once it gets to the other side, you stop the raising and then hit lower until the safety bar hits the stop. Now to undo the safety bar, you raise the lift and then flip that little piece of metal down, which has got a rounded edge on it, which allows the safety bars to bypass the stops on the way down. Now, some people say that the Quickjack doesn't get the car as high as other lifting systems that are on the market. Now, this may be true, but you have to consider that there are really only two workable heights when you're working under your car. One is 5 to 6.5 feet or so, where you're working above your head, and the other is working flat on your back, in which case you need the car to be between 18 and 21 inches or so above your head. And this is where the Quickjack really shines. You can adjust the height using different blocks, and it allows you to have easy access to everything under your car and still work in a garage with a very low ceiling. So I've placed the frame under the car, and now I'm going to use the short block. So I've placed that into the tray, and there's the jack point, and I'm going to get this just a tiny bit forward of the jack point, because as it goes up it's going to move back a little bit with the frames in this orientation. So I'll do this on all four corners of the car and then raise the jacks up a little bit to make sure that I'm in a good spot before I complete the lift. So let's go up. You can see we're going to be in a really good place. Just double check. Also make sure that these frames are parallel, that they're not more than a few inches off of parallel from one side to the other. Now that everything's in a good place, we'll continue with the lift. Okay, the moment of truth. Up. And there she goes. Soaring into the air. We'll walk around here so we can see the safety mechanisms as they go over their spots. You'll see this one hit. This is the second one coming up right now. You can see that it hit there. And now what we're going to do is lower until it rests on the safety stop. And here you can see that the 914 is safely in the air, resting on the jack points, and the safety mechanism is locked, and we could stay like this indefinitely. And finally, here is the best use for a jack stand. As a backup to the Quickjack, I never get under the car without stands backing this up as well. To lower the car, you first have to bring it up. And now what I can do is just lift this, and the safety falls down over the thing. And now to lower, just pushing the down button. And you can see here that it's sliding past the stops, and the wheels are now back on the ground. The car is safely on the ground at this point. So that's pretty much it. If you're someone that's using jacks and jack stands right now, you will not believe how much better this system is than that. It's also a lot safer, and that's the most important part. Enjoy.